Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, just because you're not actively house hunting doesn't mean you can't be nebby and wonder what other people's homes look like. Today, executive producer Mallory Falk and I are here with someone who is a professional at going inside a Pittsburgh home and getting the good stories, like who it was built for, how they chose all their eclectic art, and sometimes how exactly they got all that enormous furniture up a fancy spiral staircase. She's sharing her itinerary for Pittsburgh's North Side home tours this fall, plus telling us how the Frick revamped their tour of the Clayton House and why these changes matter. It's Wednesday, September 11th. I'm Sophia Lowe, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm here with our fearless leader, Mallory Falk. Hi.
Hey, Sophia.
And one of the curators behind the Instagram account, Houses of Pittsburgh, Annie Perry Cole. Annie, welcome back to CityCast.
Thanks so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you back here. So a lot of us, poke around on Zillow to peer inside photos of other people's homes. But this house tour thing, it's like the next level, actually getting to look inside. And this happens in a lot of neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. But for people unfamiliar with it, how does this whole thing usually work?
Sure. So house tours, yeah, a lot of Pittsburgh neighborhoods do it. It's usually run by their Citizens Federation, their nonprofit that helps to organize events. And it raises a lot of money for the neighborhoods. For the Brighton Heights house tour, which just happened, I was on the committee for that. And that is our biggest fundraiser. So everyone who came to that tour really helped our neighborhood celebrate in other ways throughout the entire year. And so what happens is a neighbor can decide to put their house on the house tour. There's usually about 6 to 10, even a few more houses on it. And you just go inside and neb around and see what their style is like, what the history is of the home, and just get a sense of your neighbors and have community together.
So there's another house tour coming up this weekend on Sunday in the Mexican War Streets. I know you are planning to be there. What are you most looking forward to about the War Streets tour?
I just love the Mexican War Streets. The neighborhood is just so cute to walk around in. And so to get to peek inside is just a real thrill. It's a real joy. The homes have so much architectural history, and then to go inside them and see these modern ways that they've used the space. A row houses are skinny, and you wonder how someone, can live, how they structure their home, how they lay out their furniture. It's so inspirational to me. And I love to see the history. I love to see the style that people have inside their home. And Mexican War Streets always puts on an amazing tour. They've been doing it for decades.
Are there any can't miss homes on this specific iteration of the War Streets?
I have not seen the homes. I am a guest just like anybody else going on the tour. It's a real surprise, but they always have such an amazing mix. There is one that I am really looking forward to that I do know about. Last year, there was a home that was under construction. I mean, it was, I don't want to say in shambles, but it was torn apart. And this year, it's supposed to be back on as the completed home.
Cool.
And I am thrilled to see it. I got a little, I talked to somebody who's a neighbor at the last Allegheny West house tour, and they said, look for it. He's supposed to be done. So fingers crossed that one is on. I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
So do you have a game plan when you approach these? Because some of our neighborhoods are really big and hilly. Do you plan ahead, or do you just usually start going and see where you end up?
Well, the neighborhood tour, they always give a great program that has a map in it, and they tell you if they have a trolley or a shuttle to take you to all of the homes. I'm not afraid to drive to them. Observatory Hill is coming up, and last year it was really hot, and it was a wonderful tour. But it's a hill. I mean, it's in the name. So I drove to several of the houses because it was just too much, and I think there's no shame in that. But my game plan is always to start at a local coffee shop and fuel up and get ready for the day. I wear comfortable shoes, and I know that I'm going to see some amazing houses, and I'm excited for it.
Are you allowed to bring your coffee inside of these homes?
My question,
I would be
too.
so nervous about spilling on a really fancy antique rug or something.
It's a good point. I would drink it before. I think some of them do have some rules like that, but I'd drink it before. I need all the caffeine I can get, so there are usually a lot of houses.
So after the War Streets, you'll be in Observatory Hill. That's going to be on September 28th. So our usual host, Megan Harris, raved about this one last year. What's special about Observatory Hill for you?
It's such an amazing community, and the homes up there are enormous. I feel like it's a hidden gem that you just don't realize. But I mean, it was home to bankers and important people in Allegheny City and Pittsburgh. And it's really neat to get to see their homes. The ones that line leading up to Riverview Park, they're just gorgeous. And I think that's one thing that really surprised me. I last year was the first time I had done Observatory Hill, and there
Mm-hmm.
was one street that had 4 or 5 different homes, and it was so cool because you got to see similar homes in structure and then completely different styles inside. One person had someone dressed up in period, 19th century clothing. It was
Incredible.
really neat to like imagine what it looked like to live in that time period. Another home, they were decorated completely to 19th century period. They had antiques, everything was just perfect, and you really get a sense of that. And then other people had like arts and crafts style, and someone had a Golden Girls themed room, and just those little quirks that you don't know what's behind people's doors, and you get a chance to see that.
And you mentioned people dressed up? Like, do the owners of the homes tend to hang out there during the tour? How does that work?
They do. A lot of times it's the owners, and so you can ask questions. You can ask questions if, they have a stained glass window and you have one similar and need it repaired. They're a wealth of information. It's a really, that's what I love about the house tour. You connect with people. So you can ask them about their collections, about tips for renovating, things like that. So I really enjoy when the homeowners are there and you get to talk to them.
I know there's also a tour coming up in October in Bellevue. Are there any houses there that are special highlights for you?
There is one that I am thrilled about. It is totally the gem of the neighborhood. It's the Marius Rousseau home, and we featured it on Houses of Pittsburgh, had a private tour with the owner, and it is something to see. You may have seen the reel. A lot of people did, and it is worth seeing in person because you cannot take in all of the details. It was built at the turn of the last century by this architect who was building his dream home, and he put so many details that you would not believe.
Hmm.
The kitchen is a work of art. It has stained glass from floor to ceiling, on the ceiling. And it was in a time when people didn't value kitchens. The owners weren't in the kitchens. They had people who cooked for them, people who owned houses like this. So to see this level of craftsmanship in a kitchen is really just something incredible and definitely worth buying a ticket and seeing it.
The kitchen is my most important room in the house, so that would be absolutely incredible.
So, you've also recently started asking people to show their homes and collections to you, including this house in Bellevue you mentioned with the incredible stained glass. Tell me a little bit more about that project.
Yeah, so we partnered with Next Pittsburgh to bring this video series where we see inside Pittsburghers' homes. And it's been so much fun so far. We've been doing it for a few months. And I feel like I've lucked out. There have been so many amazing people that have reached out and wanted to share their homes. People that have, like I said, amazing collections, history. We saw one house on Mount Washington that had the most spectacular view that I've never seen because I've never been in their house until that time. It's a private view of the entire city of Pittsburgh. From Phipps, you can see part of Kennywood down the other way of the river past the stadiums. It is really something to see. And it was so special that the owners wanted to share that with Pittsburgh, that other people can see their home. And it has a really neat history with Prohibition
Hmm.
and how the Mount Washington neighborhood did not agree with Prohibition. And this home was they had liquor in the home, and Prohibition agents actually raided the house. And while the
Whoa.
agents were inside the house, Mount Washington residents slashed the tires so they couldn't get away. They like the neighborhood came together, and it's just those stories that I mean, maybe that would be a cool book, but like you don't get to hear about. And so to hear that from the owners, and for the owners to know that home history, and those owners really took time to find out everything they could about the house. And our series actually connected them with a previous owner, and they got pictures of the home that they had never seen before. So it's really cool. We want to feature more homes. So we're really asking for more people to reach out and let us know if they have a cool home that they want to share.
And for this particular series, are there specific things that you're looking for that you haven't seen in a home yet? Like, where should people be reaching out to you for all of this, and what info do they need to provide?
Sure, we want to see anybody's house. So we have an episode coming up that features someone who is renting their home in Greenfield, and that episode should come out later this month in September. She had all of these rental-friendly tips with wallpaper and tile and what you could do with an ugly ceiling fan. And so I'm really excited to share that. So I mean, if you own a mansion, I want to see it. If you have a rental, I want to see it. There's no criteria. If you're proud of your home, we want to come in and feature it.
If someone has the tip for how to fix a popcorn ceiling in a rental, I feel like that's worth its weight in gold.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that. But oh, I should reach out to her because she had so many amazing things that I'm just like, I never would have thought of that. It was really cool to see. And anyone who is interested can DM us on Instagram, or they could email us at housesofpittsburgh@gmail.com.
And besides this series with Next Pittsburgh, you've also got a partnership with the Frick and their Clayton house. That's the home built by Henry Clay Frick. He was an industrialist here, really prominent in like the 1880s and 90s. He was very anti-labor and was responsible, at least in part, for the Homestead Strike and the Johnstown Flood. People died in both. And now his former home is a museum that gives tours.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been interesting to me about the Clayton House is that, at least in the past, it seemed like these tours didn't really acknowledge Frick's historical wrongs. I think some of it might have depended on your tour guide. I went a few years ago, and while that legacy wasn't a huge part of the tour, there was at least some acknowledgement that Frick has a complicated legacy, to put it lightly. But our host, Megan, said that she had a different experience when she went. There was very little about the workers. The tour sort of made Frick sound like a martyr of his era. And so she said, while there was all of this incredible stuff to see inside the house, the vibe was kind of off. But my sense is that's changing now.
I want to say flat out, I am in 2 unions and I'm very proud of the union legacy that Pittsburgh has. And I think that this is the perfect time to talk about Clayton because they have a brand new tour. It is winning awards because it is not glossing over history. It is giving the facts. It's called Gilded, Not Golden. And they called it that because gilding is the surface layer. And that is what you see, right? And that is what maybe previous tours only talked about. That's not the case anymore. They are giving you on this new tour prices of what Henry paid for certain items versus how many years it would take his workers to earn that amount of money. Wow. And so they are pointing out these wrongs. I still think it is worth seeing this home. It is a piece of history. His daughter Helen made it her life's work to share it with Pittsburgh. And I think there's a lot to be gained from it. And this new tour really gives you all sides of history and poses questions to you that make you think about these topics. They are not shying away from this history, from this past, and they are really digging into it and I think making people more aware so that they can have thoughtful conversations around Frick and labor and what his legacy is. It is a complicated legacy.
Are there any other changes to the tour that really stick out to you?
Yeah, in the parlor, they show it from the perspective of the people cleaning it, not set up for like a fancy party with, the wealthy people of the time. They have the tools that they would be using to clean the home and what it was like to clean in the time period because Pittsburgh was so dirty. And they have they have a window. There's a window in the house, in that room. And on it, they have an image of a steel mill with all the smoke coming out of it. And I mean, I grew up, I was born in the late 80s. So I mean, I miss the height of the steel mill time, what the air looked like in Pittsburgh. And so in that room, which is, where the Fricks took their guests to impress them. And in that room, the tour chooses to focus on what it was like to clean this, what it was like for the people that didn't get to live in Point Breeze, far away from a river, further away from the mills where all of this pollution was happening. They talk about the houses that are directly next to the steel mills and what their homes looked like, what their lungs looked like, how important that was. And I just am so thankful that they make me think of that, remind me that Pittsburgh was this dirty place and the sort of transformation and the work that we still have to do to be better. I think that that's a really important piece of the tour, and I'm glad that they highlight it.
Totally. That's really important. So what does your partnership with them look like then?
Right. So we have a series of posts. One has already come out. We're going to do a new post about the new tour and what you can expect on it. We talked
Mm-hmm.
to the organizers of the tour, and they're so knowledgeable and they are so thoughtful about what they created. And it's really, I just think, so important for Pittsburghers. If you've been to Clayton and had an experience like you mentioned, it is worth going back and listening to these new stewards for Frick and hearing about it. We also have an event coming up. It is sold out, but it's about preservation. And there's so much preservation that's going on in the home. And you can see that right now they're undergoing preservation on the outside of the home. So we're going to dig into some of that, and we hope to share that on our account as well.
So we've been talking about everything from these epic historic homes like the Clayton House to a rental in Greenfield. But I'm curious if you have a white whale, like a home you really want to get inside of that you haven't had a chance to yet.
I know exactly what home it is. There is a house on Mount Washington that you can see, like if you're crossing the Liberty Bridge going towards the Liberty Tunnels, you can see this colorful house on the hilltop. I want to see inside that house so bad. It looks very modern. It's like bright red and blue and yellow. And I'm just so curious what the inside looks like. I don't even know what street, like I don't even know how you get to it. But that's my white whale. Absolutely.
Okay, if anyone out there can make this happen for Annie, you can reach us at pittsburgh@citycast.fm.
Or reach out directly, Houses of Pittsburgh.
I love that.
Annie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Reminder that if you're excited about showing off your home, you can reach out to Annie and her sister Hope on Instagram. Their handle is @housesofpittsburgh, or you can send them an email at housesofpittsburgh@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. We've got all kinds of event recommendations every single day, and we've included these home tours on the list. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then!
This also sounds like maybe the most aesthetic bathroom in all of Pittsburgh.
Much better than a Pittsburgh potty.
Without a doubt.